Hello, all. And I hope you had a good day. And I had a pretty good day. Some interesting things, but all good in the hood. I just finished watching Candace Owens live, and I wanted to touch on this because it really spoke to me. And I'm going to tell you why it really spoke to me. In reference to the email that she read, in reference to the Jonathan and David story in the Bible. And Jonathan, because Charlie said, I think you're going to be my Goliath, essentially, he called Candace his David, right? And this was a prophecy, a dream that he had, in reference to his passing, right? And, David then goes on to fight the Goliath, in many different facets. We're all fighting Goliaths, clearly. Anywho, I'm just going to let it play.
What do you think Charlie Huntley said he wanted to be David? And that took the obvious answer, which was to slay a Goliath, right? To slay the Goliath. And somebody wrote me this email reminded me, of course, of the narrative beyond David slaying Goliath, David and his unique friendship with Jonathan in the Bible. And I am going to read that email to you. Somebody wrote, Candace, David, and Jonathan were biblical figures from the Bible who shared a deep and profound friendship, forming a covenant of mutual support. Jonathan was the son of King Saul, and David was a shepherd who became a great warrior and future king. Their bond was strong, despite the fact that Saul became jealous of David's success, leading him to threaten David. Their bond, the friendship, began after David defeated Goliath and grew into an unlikely but profound friendship. The Bible describes Jonathan's loving David as, quote, his own soul, and forming a covenant with him. Jonathan's loyalty was so great that he gave David his robe, his armor, and other symbols of rank and act that has been interpreted as a transfer of succession. Jonathan repeatedly protected David from his father, Saul, warning him of the king's intentions to kill him. After Jonathan's death, David grieved deeply for his friend. He later honored his promise to Jonathan by taking care for his son. I love that. I actually love that interpretation that I didn't even consider in that moment when I answered that question. And I just love it. I just wanted to say thank you to the person who wrote the email. And we consider that it really is about honoring your friend and properly grieving for your friend and realizing that you will not be able to be perceived as someone who even cared about the individual if you don't fight for them, if you don't stand up for them, if you don't look after their legacy, take care of their legacy. Don't allow these people like the Josh Hammers and the Seth Dillons to try to invade and quite literally turn Charlie Kirk into someone he is not for a single second. Do I believe that Charlie would have considered shutting down Tucker Carlson because he sat down Nick It is so beyond the realm of possibility that it is sickening to watch them do this. It really shows you, for those of you that are in my book club, what I was talking about when we read that last book about how they do this after death. They fight for the person's legacy, even though they were the very same people who were harassing them, the very same people that were making Charlie ill with the threats, with the money, who were pressing him at the Hamptons. Seth Dillon, Josh Hammer on the text, hearing what he was going through, seeing what he was going through, will then say, oh, I proclaim myself in charge of that person's legacy. It's twisted. It's very, very twisted. But everybody can see it. There's no doubt that everybody can see it. All right, you guys, I want to run for you one more time before I get into your...
So, I'll tell you what really spoke to me on that portion of it. All right, so I've been watching David. I make lots of videos about it. And so I'm very, very... I understand Saul, David, Jonathan, the whole book of that portion of the Bible. And I resonate with David so much. And I resonate with David and Jonathan's connection. I had a connection with like that with my previous ex. Like I really just did. It was really unique. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had our ups and our downs, but we had an unsaid connection. We had an unsaid bond. We did. And it threatened a lot of people. A lot of people got, in the way of it. Not to mention I allowed it and this and that and vice versa. And it's just timing was never right. We both weren't ever healed. But either way, there was just an unsaid bond. But so there's that portion of it that spoke to me, as well as, not to mention, like energetically, I feel the pull. I feel the different synchronicities, the patterns. I pick up on the messages. I understand the back end of it and how he's involved in it. And I get it. And again, I hold no ill will. I hold none. But what really spoke to me in reference to is like your friends, you fight for your friends, you don't go along with them or they, and that's been the hardest thing for me. The hardest thing for me is every single person in my life chose not to fight for me. They chose not even to ask me questions. They chose to assume. They chose to go along with the narrative. They chose to take the bribes and the payouts. They did. Every single one of them. From my family, my friends, my colleagues, to my previous husband and all the intertanglement there. I mean, every nook and cranny of my life, there's been no page unturned in reference to my little Truman Show, my little exploitation. And so it really did speak to me. I provided them loyalty. I provided them unconditional love. and they provided me a slap in the face. And then now they're upset that it didn't work, that their humiliation and everything that they have done to me did not work. Instead, I grew stronger. Instead, I grew confident. Instead, I grew strength. Instead, I decided to heal. Instead, I decided to grow closer to God and the divine and source, the Most High, and connect with the Holy Spirit that resides inside of me. Instead, I chose to do that. And so it's hard. It is hard. It's not something I'll ever swallow easy. That type of betrayal, that's why my heart breaks so much for Charlie. And I'm so blessed that he's up in heaven, not feeling the pain that he would be feeling if he was here on earth, knowing all of the betrayal. All of the betrayals. And so I'm blessed in knowing that he is up in heaven and he is guarding and protecting all of us, fighting for him. I told my coworker today, and she agreed with me 100%. I said, I feel like we're in a time right now where it's literally good versus evil. Like there is a line drawn in the sand, and it's in your everyday that you can see it. You can literally see it on people's faces, whether they are good or they are evil, whether they are dishonest or they're honest, whether they're genuine or disingenuine. It's crazy. It's a scary time right now. It really is. And that's why I'm telling people, and I'm trying to help people elevate, because it's only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse. There will be a tremendous fall. Judgment Day is here in different ways. He is. Ugh. Golly, anyways, I get so passionate about this. There's quite a few things that came to me today. Mad at me for something they did. Make that make sense, i.e. community. I had a epiphany earlier today when I went and did the bank deposit for work. And there's so often enough that I go through interactions, like the guy flipping me off yesterday, or like I just have interactions with people that they just go out of their way to be rude to me for no reason, short, just like it's almost like they don't even want to have to talk to me, but because they're at work, like they have to address me, right? So it's just peculiar, right? But it's like, it came to me after I went through this experience. I said, that's interesting. So I have different portions of my community that is upset with me because I decided to not let their little narrations and their humiliation ritual get the best of me. So now I'm the problem because they chose to be bad people and go against me. So it literally was them versus me. Let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. Okay. Them versus me. And because what they didn't work, now I'm the problem. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? And so that's why I don't even play the games. But I think it's comical that I literally live in a community with millions, of grown adults acting like children. That they chose to play a high school game. They chose to go along with narratives. They chose to take the bribes. They chose to take the payouts. They chose to be not great people and make poor decisions. And now they have to live with it. And they have to continue living in dishonesty and not living in truth because they know what they did. And truth always comes to light. You wear it on the outside of you. You just do. Truth has nothing to hide. It has nothing to hide, and it has nothing to bribe or blackmail. It just doesn't. And so I felt compelled to share on that because the epiphany came to me. So I was like, oh, that's why people aren't being very nice to me. All right, cool. Nice little perspective. How to walk confidently with no ego. Only compete with yourself, not others. Be grateful for what you have always and not be jealous of what others have. That is simple. That is simple. How to walk confidently without ego is only compete with yourself. Do not compete or compare yourself to others. Only compete with yourself and compare yourself to yourself. Try to grow stronger. Try to grow more resilient than you were the next day. Set goals, and provide yourself affirmations. But do not compete with others and do not be jealous of what other people have. That is how you walk with no ego. But you can still walk confidently with no ego. That's how I walk. I'm not jealous of people. And I'm not jealous of what people have. And I'm not jealous how they got it. However that looks